What is up, everyone? Welcome into a new episode of Pod Like a Champion, the recruiting show here at blueandgold.com. So we are going to break down Notre Dame's 5 new commitments. So typically we have Loose Emoji, Mike Goolsby, and myself on the Irish Huddle podcast. And whenever there's a new commitment, we'll have Mike discuss that prospect at the beginning of the show. Well, there's been so many, so we just decided to bring Mike on our recruiting podcast to discuss these new pledges for the Fighting Irish. Of course, if you're not familiar with Mike Goolsby, then you're probably pretty young. You're probably younger than 30. But if you're up there a little bit in age, then you know Mike Goolsby, former Notre Dame captain and linebacker for the Fighting Irish, played in the early 2000s, of course, had the interception against Tennessee. Probably Mike's most memorable play. Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, I think that seems, dude, that play grabbed a lot of people. It still lives in YouTube somewhere.
Of course it does. Of course it does. So we're going to break down these new commitments. Of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. Please like this video and subscribe, comment.
Leave a comment.
Leave a comment. We will respond to those. I enjoy the interaction on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, thank you so much. Please leave us a 5-star review. If you don't want to leave us a 5-star review, leave us a 4-star review. Just don't do anything lower than a 3-star, because this is a 4 or 5-star podcast. Mike was a 5-star recruit.
Hey, full circle. Bring it full circle.
There we go. If you want to support our podcast, go to anchor.fm/blueandgold. You can also leave us a voice message with questions or feedback. It's literally like just leaving us a voicemail, and then we can read that question on a future podcast. So with that, let's go through these new commitments to get Mike Goolsby reaction to them. And we're going to go in chronological order. So Chance Tucker, a cornerback from just outside Los Angeles, Crespi High School, 6'1", 170 pounds, picked Notre Dame over Washington, Oregon State, Colorado. It's kind of a late bloomer in the process, Mike. Didn't have any – well, he had one offer as a junior. It was from BYU. He picked that one up last summer, and then he didn't blow up until March. So it was a little bit of a late bloomer. Interesting, he was able to run one track meet as a junior earlier this spring, ran a 10.97. That was his first time ever running the 100-meter. So decent track time for someone who's never run the 100 meters, more of a 200, 400-meter guy. And I think from there, that was kind of the thing that helped just coaches get a little bit more get more information. It's like, all right, we got the film, now we got this track time. So, again, it was really between Notre Dame and Washington. I mean, he's a mid-3-star guy. But Rivals has said about Tucker and a lot of these kids, it's like we just haven't seen – like there's nothing to see. Like there's nothing going on. So, but he is certainly someone I'm fired up about. Him having a Washington offer, and the Huskies were really after him too. And Jimmy Lake is a DB guru, so that must say a lot about him as a player. Not that any kid that Washington offers is immediately an impact player, but I think it's just another data point about Tucker. But this isn't about my thoughts. We're going to go to Goolsby. Mike, what's your impressions of Chance Tucker?
He's another long corner, which I think we talked about this once before. Fill that backfield up full of long corners. Great play speed. Not like the twitchiest guy in the world in terms of and we'll probably get into this with some of these other kids, but short area quickness. Not super twitchy, but super long, physical player, disciplined player. On just kind of watching his highlight tape here. Even in the red zone, again, disciplined player. It really seems like Brian Kelly has a blueprint for what he's looking for rather in a defensive back. And we were touching on this literally before we started filming here, Mike. But I wonder if Kyle Hamilton wasn't like, let's just go get more of these guys. just long, tall, rangy, and it's athlete type guys. And when you watch these guys on film, they're always sneaky fast because they are so long and that stride is so long and there's not as much turnover. They don't look like they're as fast as they actually are. But, yeah, really talented player. Just goes to show you never know quite how this mystery of recruiting works.
Mm-hmm.
Because he did wind up with a whole slew of offers. It just kind of, once the top kind of came off for him, everybody rushed in. So, yeah, another long corner continues that blueprint of what Kelly's obviously going after, makes that field a little bit smaller for a quarterback. I think it's a good signing.
Yeah. So Notre Dame has four defensive backs committed in this 2021 class. All are listed. Now, listed height and weight is always different than – not always different, but a lot of times is different than reality. But all of them are at least listed at 6'1", which would make me believe all of them are at least 6 feet. So you got one true safety.
Which is a big corner. That's a big corner.
Oh,
Even
yeah,
6 foot tall is a big corner.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Tariq Bracy, who was a staple in Notre Dame's defense last year, I believe is like 5'10". And that's not the worst size either. But 6 foot, 6'1", talking about a big corner. So you got Justin Walters, who I believe is a true safety, maybe a rover guy. You know, he's listed at 6'1". Tucker's 6'1". And then you got Barnes, who's like 6'2", 6'3". Ryan Barnes from Maryland. And Philip Riley, I think, is right around 6'1", 6'2". So really talented defensive back class. Mike, when I watch Chance Tucker, I agree with you. He's not the most athletic kid you're going to see, but I was amazed in watching his tape, being like, a lot of these defensive back tapes, specifically at corner, they're just better athletes than the kids that they're up against. But Tucker, I feel like he was really well coached. When you see a corner playing man and he's getting his head around and tracking the ball and reading the receiver's eyes, that's an impressive thing that you don't always see on a tape. Did that stand out to you, especially those first few clips, that he's getting his head around so well and tracking the ball?
I'm going to jump and look at my notes. Sorry, audience. I've got these stored on my phone. I'll do better next time. But Chance Tucker, what did I write here? I put competitor focused. I said focused effort guy reminds me a little bit of Richard Sherman in his movements.
Okay.
So what you're saying, well coached, to me, it's him really competing. He's like scratching and clawing when he's playing, which he's like a gritty type guy. And again, I didn't say he wasn't a good athlete. I just said his short area, he's not twitchy is what I said.
Okay.
So there's again, these are all these adjectives we're going to use to describe players, but yeah, really sudden, really twitchy guy. That's not him. Richard Sherman is who he kind of reminds me of. Super competitive, technically proficient, long. Richard Sherman's not this kid's probably faster than Richard Sherman is at this point of his career, but that's the way Richard Sherman fights when he's playing. That's what this kid's sort of body English approach to the game reminded me of.
Chance Tucker's a really smart kid. Richard Sherman's brilliant as well. He's kind of remembered for that Aaron Andrews interview after the game, but Richard Sherman's a brilliant guy, and so is Chance Tucker. We good on Chance? Anything else you want to add, Mike? I'm
good on Chance, and I just one other thing just to add. So you were kind of going down listed heights. It's like, when are they going to start listing like wingspan with these kids' length? And just for listeners and viewers, when you hear me or any other draft pundit, or any sort of anybody talk about length, it's obviously height, but it's arm length and it's leg, how long their inseam is on their pants. So these kids, Philip Riley almost seemed proportional with his arm length in terms of his height, but both Tucker and who's the other corner?
Barnes.
Sorry, Barnes.
Yeah, Ron
you
Barnes.
Can tell by watching the film just how long their arms are. And we're talking about, it's a game of inches. Al Pacino said it best in Any Given Sunday, right? It's a game of inches. So if somebody's arm is 2 inches longer, that's that many more tip balls. And again, it makes that field a lot smaller for a quarterback. But super long athlete. I'm excited. It's like we're going to have our backfield's going to be I'd love to see these guys line up in practice and just see really how long and how tall these kids really are in person.
Yeah, I mentioned the athleticism on Tucker. I think him versus Riley, I think Chance is the better cover corner right now, but Riley is just the better, just a dog, has that freakish athleticism. Maybe not freakish athleticism, but he's really athletic. And which do you like more? I think they complement each other really well. That's the answer. With these two guys.
That's it, yeah.
Do you like Tucker more in the field or the boundary?
Again, he's probably just based off a body type. Out of the box, he's more of a field corner.
Yeah,
Riley's more of a boundary corner to me.
that's what I was about to say. I think a lot of people are talking about Tucker in the boundary, but I'm like, man, if those two guys are your starting quarterbacks, I want Riley in the boundary and Tucker to the field.
Yeah, and I've also put another note in my phone as I was just looking over that, like, and it's fun, right, to try and project what positions or what specific position within the position that they fall into.
Right.
But they're all defensive backs. And it's like I put a note in there. I was like, Cam Chancellor for the Seahawks is 6'4", 230, and Bob Sanders, who's 5'7", 200 pounds. They both play the same position. They're both safeties. So it's like once all these kids get into a room, we can't see. I haven't seen these kids with their, just in a T-shirt to see how big or. But Chance Tucker's another guy that could grow into a hell of a safety too. But yeah, I think you're going after a body type at this point. It seems like with our defensive backs, and fill the room up with them, and then we'll find slots for them down the road.
Yeah, versatile guys too. I feel like with a lot of them.
Sure.
You're talking about corner or safety, especially with Ryan Barnes. He could really play anywhere in the secondary. We'll move on.
I don't think that looking at a corner being like, oh, he's going to turn into a safety, folks. That's not a bad thing. It's just not. So sometimes I feel like that reads as a negative.
He doesn't have a specific home. He's a tweener.
He's not fast enough. We'll move him to safety. It's like, no, some of these kids are going to be plenty fast enough to play corner, but that range, it only helps your corners be more aggressive playing man if they know they've got a guy that can cover that much, how deep behind them. Anyways, moving on, Mike.
Yeah, so July 25th, Notre Dame picked up its first class of 2022 commit, Joey Tanona, Zionsville, Indiana, in the Indianapolis area. He picked the Fighting Irish over the likes of LSU, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Tennessee. He's also another guy who really blew up this calendar year. I want to say his first offer was last November or December. So here he is, played his entire sophomore year without an offer, and then, picks up all these Midwest powers, LSU, defending national champs offered him, and now he's a Notre Dame commit. So great work by the Fighting Irish staff, led by offensive line coach Jeff Quinn. So 4-star prospect on Rivals. What's your take on him, Mike?
Before I answer, just to be clear, he's a 2022 kid?
Yeah, so rising junior.
What a world we're living in, man. You were like, oh, he's a late bloomer. Dude, the kid's not even a junior in high school.
Right, that's like accelerated recruiting process.
It is crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Usually it's junior year that's the most important for recruiting. Now it's sophomore year. Like when I was in high school, it was junior year that was most important. And now it's sophomore.
And it probably still is. Let's be honest about it. It probably still is. If anybody's listening, they've got kids playing high school football, it probably still is. I think the high-end elite guys that you just know as freshmen.
That's when you see him as sophomore.
This kid's special. Like that kid, like that Devin Jackson in town that I trained, the recent Notre Dame offer. Hell, why would we break down Devin? But we'll get to that. But, he's just one of those kids like, offer him. Doesn't matter if he's a sophomore. So anyways, that being said, with Tanona, with watching this film and him only being a sophomore, super impressive. And the first word that I wrote in my notes, Mike, was overwhelming. He's like an overwhelming on the field. He's overwhelming all these defenders, and he seems to kind of get it in terms of having the right approach for being a dominant offensive lineman. In that, there's plenty of plays where he's the backside block. So most guys will either try and cut or just push the guy, whatever.
Take the play off.
He's not making the play. It's toss sweep the other way. He's pancaking that kid, which is exciting. Super strong, above average athlete for the position. I think it's a great signing. Like, he gets it.
Guard, tackle, what do you think?
Who knows? I mean, he's only he looked fine as a left tackle there. I mean, there's several times where he had to adjust in pass coverage and move laterally, and he did it just fine. So maybe he's a right tackle over that, vaunted left tackle. But again, good football player, super, super impressive for being a sophomore in high school. It's like, damn, yeah.
I mean, obviously all these guys have tons of room of growth, but like when you watch it, they're like, and of course all these plays are also their highlights. So there's no, like, you're not seeing him give up a sack on any of these plays, but anything where you could be like, you could work on that, or is everything just look really stellar.
Yeah, I mean,
Again,
if you're,
stellar.
I mean, any of these kids, it depends on how I don't know, Mike. I like them.
Yeah.
So if somebody, once he makes, like, I played with a guy in Dallas, Larry Allen, and I'm not comparing this kid to Larry Allen, but like when Larry Allen, who bench pressed 750 pounds, like famously, like started at 4 different positions on the offensive line. But when he got his hand, like you'd watch him in practice and he would do one-on-ones with all these other NFL defensive linemen, and he'd get his hands on them, and it was just over. It was over. So that's how Tanona kind of looks on film, and he brings kids into him and he just dumps them. It's like this Pancake City, kind of a fan favorite type of guy. Obviously, pass protection needs to be improved with all these kids, just because it's high school football and they're not going to see as much work in that realm. But I'm just telling you, what you look for in an offensive lineman, the toughness, the footwork, just the physical prowess, the power, he's got it. And again, he seems to have pretty good lateral ability. So as early indications, he's still got 2 more years of high school football. Right. But hell yeah, great signing.
We'll move on.
Let's.
Jack Nickel from my neck of the woods down here in Atlanta, Georgia. Interesting prospect. So he picked up Notre Dame offer in terms of how his recruitment came about. And when I say interesting, picks up the Notre Dame offer in May. 2 months after John McNulty came on the job as tight ends coach. And he offered 2 2022 tight ends, Nickel and a young man, Benji Gusnell in North Carolina. So Nickel's one of the first 2 early targets for McNulty. And Nickel took a self-guided tour of Notre Dame late June or first week of July. And he was Notre Dame's second commit of the 2022 class just 2 days after Tanona announced his pledge. Nickel picked up an offer from LSU like a week before he committed. Penn State offered him. I mean, he had 27 offers. Wisconsin's a great tight end school. He was Wisconsin's first tight end offer in that class. Just a nice long offer list. Florida State, again, LSU, Miami, Michigan State, Oregon. I mentioned Penn State, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Wisconsin. So just close to 30 offers in total. What was your take on this tight end? Obviously, Notre Dame's tight end and this guy is ranked as a high 3-star prospect. So when you watch the tape, not to ask you to give a star ranking, but what's your take on this guy? Was this a good get for Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah. I would say my first word in my notes there, he's a complete tight end with soft hands. I don't think he's going to blow your doors off athletically. But as we've kind of touched on, I anticipate seeing a lot of tight ends on the field for Notre Dame in the coming years.
Yep.
So you need a mixed bag. And I think he's sort of that tweener type. Is he a hand in the down, just basically an extension of a tackle type run blocker? Or is he the spread him out wide and be a move guy? He's kind of a mix of the two.
Which is good, right?
Exactly. Like I said, but you're going to need the speed guy, the super athletic guy, like a Tommy Tremble type,
sure,
right? You're going to need a bruising blocker, and then you're also going to need a guy that can do both. And I think this is a kid that can do both. It was funny. It's funny how, like, smart kid, right? He gets an offer from Notre Dame, and like it's a desirable offer, especially at that tight end position.
Right.
It's like, there's like a coin flip whether you're about to be a millionaire in 3-4 years.
Well, I think every starting tight end for Notre Dame has been drafted since you played at Notre Dame, 2004.
It's actually since 2005, every starter has been drafted, and most in the first or second round, which is crazy. But yeah, he reminds me, when I was watching him, another note that I put down is he reminds me of a Stanford type tight end. Just, again, kind of a discipline, does everything pretty well, not crazy athletic.
Well, Mike, his dad, Paul Nickel, who might not be a household name, but he was a part of the Stanford team that upset Notre Dame in 1990. And guess what position Paul Nickel played?
Well, it had to be
tight end at Stanford. So his dad was a tight end at Stanford. So there you go, Mike.
Well, did Stanford recruit him? I mean, did they come in with an offer?
They did not. Stanford is pretty – they take their recruiting process real slow with their academic standards. I don't know how many 2022 offers they've put out, but I think they were kicking the tires a little bit. I don't know why they didn't offer. I mean, he's an incredible student. I'm pulling up right now to check out their offer list on Rivals to see how active they have been. Of course, I can't find it.
While you're looking that up, but just more thoughts on Nickel.
Yeah.
He is a big dude. And with soft hands. So, I think he'd be big enough to block most defensive ends, semi-competently. But, yeah, definitely a complete player.
That is what I've said about him, is that you just watch the tape. He just does everything really well. There's
really well.
Yeah, he might not be a 5-star athletic freak, but he has a very high floor in that I see very little bust potential with him. And I also think he's got a pretty high ceiling in that reasonably you could say, yeah, I could see this guy be an All-American type player. But at worst, he is just a really solid blocking tight end who can get you a couple catches a game, will be great for special teams and all that. Stanford's actually offered 3 tight ends in the 2022 class. So
yeah, he's what's funny is you see most of these stud tight ends, these 4 or 5-star type guys, when you watch their highlight tape, it's all catches, it's all vertical routes, it's all jump balls in the end zone. And when we're talking about being a complete player, if somebody wants to watch his highlight tape, there's just as many clips of him being a willing, capable blocker as there are him catching the ball. So the highlight tape kind of speaks to who he is as a player. Can do both. So nice signing.
Yeah. Quick word from our sponsors. Trade Lasts is a Notre Dame Idea Center startup that has pivoted its business model to a not-for-profit initiative to serve the medical responders selflessly sacrificing themselves during the crisis. They are doing so by providing free vacations post-crisis for the responders so that they can recover from the trauma that they have experienced and reconnect with their families. Please consider helping this important Notre Dame initiative started by Notre Dame alums and staffed by student volunteers by visiting their website, tradelast.com, and donate your time and your second home. Please spread the word to others or support their GoFundMe page. Again, that's tradelasts.com. Thank you for supporting this deserving Notre Dame initiative. We've got 2 new 2021 commits to break down for the Fighting Irish, and we will discuss those guys after a real quick break. All right, we're back, everybody, and we're now talking about Notre Dame's running back commit in the 2021 class, Logan Diggs, who announced his pledge to the Fighting Irish July 29th. He picked Notre Dame over schools like Arkansas, Houston, Kansas, Louisville, Memphis, Michigan State, Ole Miss, Nebraska, Oklahoma State, Purdue, SMU, USC, a school that he was close to making a commitment to. But big props to the Fighting Irish staff, especially Terry Joseph, who has his roots down in New Orleans. And, for the Irish, there's definitely some area recruiting, but for the most part, it's that position coach goes out and gets his guys. And Lance Taylor certainly played a factor in Diggs' recruitment, but it was Terry Joseph. I think without him, I don't know if Notre Dame gets this kid. So, shifty back. I like his short area quickness. I don't think he has the best top end speed in the world, but I think a solid 3-down back, tough kid, runs with some Southern swagger. That's my take on him, Mike. I don't get paid the big bucks to break down the kids, though. What do you think about him, Mike?
Who does get paid the big bucks?
I was hoping you would make some kind of comment like that.
Yeah. So what's his height and weight officially, Mike? Do you have it in front of you?
He's listed at 6 foot 191.
Okay. And you see him as a shifty back?
Man, I think he's got some wiggle. I know you love that word wiggle. I think he's got great wiggle.
So he almost runs like a guy. This is good and bad. He runs like a kid that's bigger than he is. So he doesn't shy away from contact like a big back would. And he almost has the pace, like the movement skills of a big back. I would have thought he was bigger than that, truly. So Yeah, he does bring some Southern swagger. It's funny, I was saying he almost plays like an SEC type player, and I know he's, from NOLA
Yep.
or the surrounding area. But yeah, like you said, kind of a 3-down type back. Seems to have like a competitiveness to him, which will be interesting to kind of see how that meshes with that running back room, which is pretty well packed at this point. But yeah, I think he's similar, I guess, to what we're saying with Jack Nickel, kind of a little bit of a can do it all. Yeah, the speed doesn't look tremendous on film. It's not like a Chris Tyree, who I'm a fan of, but there are a couple plays on that tape where he does manage to get around an edge. I remember watching Julius Jones. Fans might remember that game. Who was it against? Washington State at home in 2003. And Julius made a couple runs, and I was like, I could not believe he was able to turn the corner. And you can see a little bit of that with this kid. So, yeah, great hands. You always, everybody wants that top end speed. And if you don't have that top end speed and the elite quickness, I think that mentality and the toughness, because there's only a few kids out there that have that type of God-given ability. So he runs hard, he runs physical. That might make up for whatever it is that he lacks in that speed and quick, again, long speed,
Sure,
elite quickness. We're all, so hungry for.
So Lance Taylor at Stanford, Coach Bryce Love and Christian McCaffrey, and Taylor loves the all-purpose backs, catch out of the backfield, put them in the slot, obviously carry the rock, block well. And do you think Diggs fits that mold of someone who well-rounded kind of all-purpose guy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's plenty of, I mean, he's pancaking people on his clips and he's catching the ball. It's just when you talk about like that short area quickness, when you run so much of that inside zone scheme out of a shotgun formation, it's like, man, that kid has to get like 5 yards vertical, like now, because it's like, so that you're just looking for that little burst just to get from the first to the second level. But this kid's got the makings to be like a fan favorite, Mike, because he's a banger.
Yeah, he is.
Well, hopefully fans get a chance to check out his highlight tape, because he is not does not shy away from contact. So he's initiating it. So again, what he lacks in short area quickness and or that kind of long speed, the mentality that he seems to play the game with might supersede that. So
right.
Fun kid to watch play.
Yeah, certainly. His highlight tape is very much fun. One more thing about him, Mike. So any Notre Dame fan, whether you follow recruiting or not, you probably have heard about Will Shipley, who was hyped up more as a target for a school than I've ever seen in my 7 years of covering football recruiting, by the media specifically, and the fan base went crazy about Will Shipley. And probably part of it is because here you have this borderline 5-star guy, and Notre Dame has not had a 5-star running back in who knows how long. So they don't get Shipley, commits to Clemson, and they're the first guy they offered after Shipley picked Clemson, I believe that was May 5th, was Diggs. Offered him about 2 hours after Shipley announced his commitment. So do you think, considering that context, that this was the guy they offered next, it took them 2.5 months to secure that commitment, would you say that was a pretty good get on the recruiting front for Notre Dame, considering that?
So what everybody have such a gosh, I'm trying to watch my language, Mike. So everybody was in love with Shipley, but what was it that everybody was in love with? So a lot of it was his versatility, right? He's like the number one all-purpose back, right?
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Yeah, ranking.
Why was he ranked so high? Was his ability to do everything, or what do you think?
I saw him play twice, and he's a good size. The speed's there. He was just pretty good at everything he does. I don't know if he was, everyone has the Christian McCaffrey comparison because he's a really talented white running back. Like, so let's just call a spade a spade. But, I don't know if that's accurate comparison, but
the way I always
and that's
read
not that's not fair to the kid because it's freaking Christian McCaffrey's one of the best running backs.
Yeah, but you and Lou are always trying to bait me into giving you comparisons all the time. So, but I always read Shipley's desirability I always read it as that it was based off of his, again, usability. Like he can catch. They split him out on routes, speed, hands, a little bit of toughness, ran a little bit behind his pads. So we'll call him an all-purpose back, right?
Yeah.
As in like a Christian McCaffrey ultralight.
Sure.
So you look at Diggs in the same way. So you missed out on that multi-purpose kind of physical, bigger type back, and then Diggs is that. So catch the ball, block, runs. Diggs is makes a little bit more of his own yardage than Shipley. Shipley looks like a freaking world beater when that hole's there, but when that hole's there, he just kind of gets gummed up, and then he eventually.
When it's not there.
I'm sorry.
You mean when the hole's not there?
Yes, I'm sorry. When that hole isn't there, when there's not that bowling alley for him to run through and score that big, long, sweeping touchdowns that are his highlight tapes, just all these long, sweeping, beautiful runs. But yeah, a kid like Diggs can make it some ugly yards.
Yeah.
And that's more realistic when you're talking about going to the next level. So I never, you and I again talked offline. I didn't see it with Shipley. I mean, I guess I get it, but
well, what you had said was the top end speed is really great with him, but you never thought he had the greatest wiggle. He just kind of ran past everybody.
It was almost an inability to make his own yardage. So anybody can fake out a safety coming down one-on-one. Most strong high school running backs should be able to break a one-on-one tackle. Then they have the entire field at their disposal. So you do see a little bit of that with Shipley, but I'm talking to getting ugly yards where it's 3rd and 3 and you need 6, right? Or again, getting out of a tackle on a screenplay, fighting off a linebacker, backside pursuit. I didn't see a lot of that with Shipley. So I guess I get the hype, but not getting him and then landing Diggs, it's a very soft landing for us. So
sure,
we're not in bad shape.
Last commit we're going to talk about Mitchell Evans, big jumbo athlete. We're going to get Mike's thoughts on him, but first, a word from one of our awesome sponsors here at blueandgold.com. Looking for that unique Notre Dame item for the Irish fan in your life? Please visit Augie's Locker Room, the country's #1 Notre Dame memorabilia shop. They have the largest selection of Notre Dame helmets dating all the way back to the turn of the century up to present day, including the Shamrock Series helmet. They also have stadium benches, franked tickets, one-of-a-kind Rockney items, signed items, and many other unique pieces. If it's Notre Dame, they have what you're looking for. Visit them online at augieslockerroom.com or call 574-277-ND. Again, please visit augieslockerroom.com. So, Mike, Notre Dame's second tight end commit of the 2021 class, Mitchell Evans, listed at 6'7", 240. So, a big old athlete. Notre Dame's, again, took him at tight end, picked the Fighting Irish over Florida State, Louisville, Michigan State, Pitt, UCF, Virginia, West Virginia. So over 20 offers. Didn't have the biggest elite offer lists, but, Notre Dame really likes this kid. My only reservations about him is, like, I don't know what he is. Is he a tackle? Is he a tight end? Like, I don't know what he is. I really like him as an athlete. Just watch him. He's just a really freaking good football player.
He's a Mike. He's a punter.
He punts. He plays a little quarterback. He does a little bit of everything.
Until we figure out, whether is he a defensive end? Is he a tight end? Is he a tackle? Until we find that out, he's a punter.
So what do you see about when you watch his tight end tape? What do you think?
Big Mitch. I'm going to start calling him Big Mitch. So I'm going to start making the T-shirts now.
Don't switch those to the first letters of those words, because that won't go over well.
All right.
Bad joke. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll proofread the copy before they go.
There
to
you
the printer.
go.
But
there you go.
I think he's he's fun to watch, man. And I get the jump where people are going to say, oh, he's going to grow into a tackler or whatever. But he's a really, really good athlete. I would say, again, that short area quickness, going from one side of the room to the other. I think Mitch is just as fast, if not faster than Nickel. He's quick, man.
Yeah.
Especially like in a phone booth, he's got really light, quick feet. He's fun to watch. Again, I could see him being a fan favorite. But when I watch all these tape, I'm like, would I offer that kid? If I was in Notre Dame shoes,
Sure.
I'm always like, that's sort of my first thing. Was like, would I even offer the kid?
Okay.
Right? Because I'm kind of a dickhead when it comes to that. It's like, would I offer him? And then from there, it's like you start peeling off the layers of what is he good at, strengths, weaknesses. This kid, Big Mitch, he's more physical with the ball in his hand than without his hand. So when you see him blocking, it's almost as like his mentality changes where he's more aggressive once he's toting the rock. So that was kind of interesting to me, just a casual observation. But I think he could even grow into being like a defensive end,
sure,
potentially too. He reminds me too, like I wrote this in my notes. Who's that big defensive end that's going to Clemson? Brian Breesy, is that his name?
Yep.
Like the number 1 player.
Yep.
He just kind of reminds me of that. Like it seems like he's sort of having fun when he's out there playing, just kind of dominating a little bit. Physically looking at him, you could tell he's got a wide waist. So he's probably got like a 36, 38-inch waist for a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid. And his upper body's yet to catch up with his lower body. But yeah, this is the type of kid that could be 270 in 6 months as he just keeps getting bigger. He's got a real thick bottom half, but his upper body, it's funny how kids too, like high school kids, their lower body develops quicker than their upper body because they're still becoming men. And then as you become a man like me, I haven't trained legs in 3 years. So it's like the flip side. When you're younger, your lower half grows quicker. And then when you get older, you forget about your lower half entirely. But I'm a fan of him. I think he could be a defensive end. I think he could be, again, one of those multiple usage tight end types. Or potentially grow into a tackle down the road. But how many of those kids are we going to sign between he and Alt? Like, we're just.
Notre Dame offered a 2022 tackle prospect in Colorado last week, and he was a tight end, and he had moved to tackle. So there's another one. Question for you, Mike.
Athletes, so you're looking for athletes. It's athletes.
Yeah.
So if this kid grows into being a tackle 3-4 years down the road, he's going to be one hell of an athlete. Yeah. He's got fantastic feet. Like I said, that short area quickness. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Mike.
If you were a Notre Dame coach, would you offer this kid? Since you mentioned it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like I said, I get it. I get it why they offered him. He's a big, athletic kid. I played against the kid, Mike Goolsby. I think Notre Dame might have offered him years ago. He was 2 years behind me in high school, but 6'8", 270, 280 in high school. And then he wound up starting as a right tackle for Michigan as a sophomore in college. And he was just a big, great basketball player. I'd imagine this kid's probably a fantastic basketball player.
Play some hoops, yep.
So, yeah, I get it. I totally see why they offered him. It'll be fun to see what he turns into.
So here's my last question for you on Mitchell Evans. So you were a middle linebacker at the college level. So let's say you're covering the hook curl and like a cover 2 look, and you got Mitch Evans, running at you. What's your mindset as you have to cover Mitchell Evans, whether he's coming at you, you're not sure if he's going to curl or head out or run past you or cut inside.
Oh, he's not going to run past me. But so to answer your question, you'd have to take down a distance into the equation.
Okay.
So if it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, and he's just running that little stick route, yeah, there's no way you can guard him. If he ends up being 6'7", 260, and he runs a 6-yard out route, and the quarterback throws it over here, and I'm on this side because he's just jumping he's going opposite which way I jump. And the quarterback that's the easiest completion in the world. He just shields you off. So very useful for that. How are you going to guard a guy that's 6'7", 260? It just boxes you out like he's on the block playing basketball. So I played against a guy at USC. Alex Holmes was his name. He was like 6'3", like 275. He would just come off, hit you with his forearm, and then boom, the ball would be there. There's not much you can do about it. But he could also be a hell of a blocker just based off his body type. He needs to clean up his blocking technique. He doesn't look like he likes the block. He looks like he likes to have the ball in his hand.
Yeah.
But again, not even a junior in high school yet.
Yeah. I've talked to him and I asked him, like, hey, our school's talking about tackling. He said, yeah, like a little bit. And I'm like, hey, what do you think about that move? And he says, I want to play tight end, but I'm going to paraphrase him here, but he's like, I'm not an idiot. Like, if I play tackle, it's probably a good decision for me and for putting money in my pocket. So I think I completely agree. He can make a lot of money, playing tackle.
So he gets it. Yeah. I mean, some of that will be out of Big Mitch's hands. I mean, if God intends him to be 305 pounds, he's going to grow out of the tight end position. I don't care how quick his feet are or how soft his hands are. It's just going to be what it is. So, I get it. Between he and Tanona, I don't know who was my favorite. But if Big Mitch stays at tight end, he'll be a fan favorite for sure because he's hard to bring down.
Good stuff. Well, Mike, I appreciate you joining this episode of Pod Like a Champ. I think it was really fun to go through those commitments. If you enjoyed this video, again, please like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening via podcast, you can go to anchor.com or anchor.fm/blueandgold. Again, leave us a voice message that could appear in a future
Mike,
podcast.
Is that anchor as in like a boat anchor?
Yes, it is. Yeah, anchor.fm/blueandgold. You can even become a recurring you can set up recurring donations if you want to get crazy to my listeners. You can do that. Again, please leave us feedback.
Mike's got to buy, you got to buy that patio furniture.
Dude, it's expensive. I had no idea.
The joys of home ownership, man.
I do like it. My tractor tire, I found 6 leaks around the rim of my tractor tire for my riding mower because I got an anchor and a half, and so that's I got to work on that because right now I'm just pumping up air every time I.
It just needs probably just a beating on the tire, Take it off and take it to a tire shop.
Yeah, the sellers
jump off the message board for an hour and a half, and
the sellers left me a spare, so I might just like a nice new tire.
The mower came with the house.
Mower came with the house.
Tremendous,
so, very tremendous.
That you probably put the screws to them.
I didn't. I was hoping, and they threw it in there, so that was a blessing. Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, patio furniture is ridiculous, dude. Ridiculous.
I was shocked at how
ask for it for a housewarming present. Save yourself some money. Anyways,
definitely. All right, we're signing off.
Let's do it again, dude.
All right, hey, maybe Notre Dame gets some new commitments soon, and we'll chop it up a little bit more. But if you don't watch our or listen to our team podcast, where we break down everything going on with the team, make sure you check out the Irish Huddle with myself, Mike Goolsby, and Loose Emoji. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Pod Like a Champion. Where's your thumbs up, Mike? You always give that. There it goes.